Thank you for your patience. So our last application tonight is appeal number 13893, use D1 variance, bulk variance and preliminary and final major site plan, public hearing open, no testimony heard. Christ Church at Toms River, 415 Washington Street. That's block 687, lot 16. The applicant seeks use D1 variance and preliminary and final major site plan approval to construct a proposed 949 square foot homeless shelter addition with 17 beds connected to the existing outreach office of the Church of Christ. The proposed homeless shelter is not a permitted use in the R150 zone. Number of parking spaces, 183 spaces required or permitted, 115 parking spaces proposed. Mr. York.
Thank you. For the record, Harvey York, I'm George Jacoby Siduli, representing the applicant. As you have read into the record, it is both a use variance and site plan. So we're here for two different issues. The property is the Episcopal Church on Washington Street. I suspect most people know where that is located. I will disclose up front that I live within 1,000 feet of this property. And presently, I'm not disqualified, but I'm in the neighborhood. The homeless shelter is in fact a group home for homeless individuals. This project is designed for people in need. The need is real. This isn't a made-up, could-be concern. It is part of what is going on both in Monmouth and Ocean County. By way of example, those of you that know the work of Fulfill, it's the food bank in Monmouth and Ocean County. Just so you understand the scope of Fulfill and the food insecurity which is related to homeless people, Fulfill gives away 1 million pounds of food every month. Those of you that live in the town know that for a long time, and perhaps still, on Fridays at the Presbyterian Church, there was always a line of people receiving food. There are no group homes for homeless in Ocean County. The church is trying to help people. So there's an addition proposed, and we're going to use the parish house. And we'll have an architect explain what it is we propose. The Affordable Housing Group is going to partnership with the church in this effort. While there are people that are concerned, and they have a right to be concerned, it is interesting, and we'll have the testimony, that all of you should know that on June 26, 2023, Tomsriver Township granted a zoning permit to allow the use of the hall as an outreach center for the homeless. So since July of last year, homeless have been coming in and out of the hall receiving services. They do not live there, but they receive outreach and they receive services. And Randy Moore, the executive director of Affordable Housing, will describe what has happened. Now, I'll note that most people in this town had no idea that was going on because homeless people need help. And that's what we intend to give them. Inherently beneficial use. The statute requires that for a D variance, among other things, you have to show an inherently beneficial use. NJSA 40:55B-4 defines inherently beneficial use. Inherently beneficial use means a use which is universally considered of value to the community because it fundamentally serves the public good and promotes the general welfare. Such a use includes, but is not limited to, a hospital, school, child care center, group home. The very nature of this application, which is a group home, is by definition an inherently beneficial use. So we meet that initial test. There is a case, St. John's Evangelical Lutheran Church versus Hoboken, 195 New Jersey Super 414, in which the court went even further and said that a homeless shelter was an accessory use to a church, taking it one step further. The court gave some history of homeless shelters. and treating sanctuary. And the court, and I quote from page 418 of the opinion, "The concept of sanctuary has been a strong element of religious tradition from Moses to the New Testament. Sheltering the homeless and caring for the poor has consistently been a church function carried out for centuries by religious persons. It is among one of the basic mandates in the Judeo-Christian heritage. Throughout history, the churches have carried out the biblical mandate to aid the poor and the helpless." That's a court opinion. Homes of Hope, 236 New Jersey Super, 584, 1989, determined directly that a low-income homeless group home is in fact an inherently beneficial use. Now, there are several cases that have dealt with special reasons variances, and the board has heard them before. The Medici case, which dealt with commercial uses in non-residential settings. That's not what this is. But there is a New Jersey Supreme Court case, Sika versus the Board of Adjustment, 127 NJ 152. In that case, the court held that if you have an inherently beneficial use, you did not have to meet the enhanced standard of the negative criteria. And that is part one. Part two, you did not have to show that the site be particularly suitable for the intended use. In this case, we have an inherently beneficial use, which by its own gets through that. The court then said, however, you have to show that there is, quote, no substantial detriment to the public good. Not that there isn't any detriment, it has to be substantial. And the court went on to identify the various criteria in detail. And it gave boards the right to attempt to reduce any detrimental effect by reasonable conditions. In this instance, we clearly are an inherently beneficial use, both by definition and case law. We will have testimony as to what will be done. Is my time up?
Take out the garbage.
Yes, thanks. We'll have testimony in detail. We will have the executive director of affordable housing testify. We'll have an architect testify as to the layout, what is going to be done. We will have a traffic expert to opine as to the degree of whatever traffic there might be. And of course, we'll have a professional planner to deal with the site plan and the planning issues themselves. This application is the church trying to do exactly what churches are supposed to do. Help people. At this time, I'd ask Randy to be sworn in.
Do you swear affirm the testimony you give before this board will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
State and spell your last name and your address.
My name is Randy Moore, M-O-O-R-E, and my home address or our office address is 3535 Route 66 in Neptune, New Jersey.
Randy, what is your occupation or profession or job? What do you do?
I'm the CEO of the Affordable Housing Alliance.
And what is exactly does that group do?
The Affordable Housing Alliance was founded over 30 years ago. We develop affordable housing and we provide a variety of housing-related services throughout within Ocean County.
And your business or your activities are in place now, is that correct?
Correct.
I asked you if you can identify A1, and is that an aerial view of the proposed property?
Yes.
And A2 is a colored rendering of what is proposed, is that correct?
Correct.
Would you describe in detail what AHA does?
Sure. So we have a variety of programs and services. Our focus is on housing stability. We work to assist people obtain and maintain permanent housing. That's the goal in everything that we do. We provide a lot of different housing related services and systems, and included in this is the adult shelter in Monmouth County that we've been running for over a decade. In Toms River, we've been here since after Hurricane Sandy. We opened an office in Toms River, and we've been here ever since. We've helped over 834 households that were facing foreclosure in the Ocean County area since then. We've helped over 500 households in Sandy recovery. We run a homeowner rehab program for the County of Ocean. And since 2022, we've helped rehab 50 homes for mostly seniors to help them age in place and remain in the county. And so we've long had a presence in Ocean County. We've expanded our services into the homeless world in Ocean County in about 2022. We were brought in to take over the coordinated entry system, which is really the single point of entry for people experiencing homelessness in the county. Federal law requires that every county has a system that streamlines how people experience homelessness and how they access housing to make sure that it is most efficient and that people are able to access resources. And so we've been doing that for several years. We've seen out of the parish house over 500 people that have come through our doors that were literally homeless in that time. We've received some grants from the state and county over the last year and a half to do rapid rehousing, which is really to move people directly out of homelessness into homes and help with some rent and services along the way. Since we've been doing that the last year and a half, I'm happy to say we house over 110 people in partnership with many of our partners that are here today. And so again, our goal really is to move people onto permanent housing. The shelter will be one big stepping stone to help us continue to do that.
With regard to the proposed shelter, how is it being funded?
The shelter is going to be funded by Ocean County, so funds through COVID funds.
So this project is real and the funds are available from the County of Ocean.
Correct.
Would you describe the information you have available on who is experiencing homelessness in Toms River?
Sure. So really the people experiencing homelessness in Toms River are just really a cross-section of the community as a whole. It's seniors, individuals, families. 99% of the people we see, or more than 99% of the people we see are U.S. citizens. All of the data that we have regarding homelessness comes from a statewide homeless management information system. All providers are required to enter data into that. So these are actual facts and data. These aren't just kind of generalities of what we're seeing. What I can say is that 2/3 of the people that we see do have a source of income. The leading cause of homelessness is eviction or being asked to leave their home, mainly because their incomes aren't able to keep up with the soaring rents that we're seeing in our communities. The vast majority of everybody that we see has absolutely no history of substance abuse or mental illness. I know that's a big misconception that we see, and far and beyond, that is not what we see in the community at all. Also important to point out that Toms River emerges as the leading source of homelessness in Ocean County. The data shows that more individuals and families that are experiencing homelessness report that Toms River was their last permanent address before they became homeless. This trend is significantly disproportionate to Toms River's population size, meaning that the rate that Toms River residents become homeless far exceeds what would be expected based on their share of the county population as a whole. Statewide data shows that year to date, 958 individuals were facing homelessness or actually became homelessness while they were residing in Toms River. It really represents that there are a large number of people in Toms River in need. And the last thing I'll say is that the vast majority of people that experience homelessness that we see experience it for really short periods of time, a month at a time. And they just lack the resources, the networks, or the safety nets that we might have in our lives to help lift them out of that. And so a short-term place for people to stay while we help them get those resources together is really, really important. Everyone that we're seeing, we're sending home to their cars, to the street, to the woods. Right now, they have nowhere to go. And so the shelter will go a really long way.
Could you speak into the microphone? You're talking fast and we can't hear you. Thank you.
Sorry, thank you.
Would you describe the DCA and the other safety requirements?
Sure. So in New Jersey, you have to have, the state of New Jersey through the Department of Community Affairs sets strict regulations for the standards for shelter design and operations. Everything that we do there, staffing, everything is required through DCI. So you cannot operate a shelter in New Jersey without a DCA license, and it is regulated very highly, and they come in annually, at least annually, to inspect and ensure that everything is up to standard. We take safety really seriously. It's the cornerstone of the design, the plans, really for our staff, for our residents, for the community as a whole. Our success is really linked to creating a safe environment, right? This isn't going to be successful if it isn't safe for anybody. And so I know there's a lot of concerns about that, and that is something that we take really, really seriously. From our experience running a shelter for 10 years, we know what we're doing. We do this. Yes, there are issues, but they're always addressed. We've never had major concerns whatsoever. We have extensive experience with developing housing and shelter operations, and that's really, we've used that to kind of guide how we do things. This will include, we'll have 24/7 staff on site at the shelter. There's controlled access to the shelter. There's clear rules for the residents and behavioral expectations that they must follow. And of course, we'll maintain relationships with any law enforcement emergency services if that's needed.
With regard to this specific site, will you describe the operations?
Sure. So we will continue to operate the daytime center during the day from 8 to 5 p.m. There'll be about 8 staff and volunteers that are there. That's kind of consistent with what we're doing currently. The shelter operations will seamlessly begin afterwards. We'll have 3 staff that will be on from 5 to 11 p.m. And then 2 overnight staff from 11 p.m. to 7 a.m. We're required to have 2 staff at all times on staff. And then we'll have an additional staff person on from 6 a.m. to 11 a.m. to provide transportation.
People residing there overnight, what happens in the morning?
Sure. So in the morning, we will serve breakfast, and then we will work to get everybody where they need to be. Some people will come in their own vehicles, and for those that don't, they will be provided transportation to day programs, employment, or any other things that they have. It's important to point out it's our staff's responsibility to make sure that people have things to do during the day and that they have places to go. There's a number of service providers and community groups that they can attend to. And if they have appointments, they can go upstairs and participate in our programs upstairs.
Are the individuals coming into the group home screened?
Everybody will be screened through our staff through the coordinated entry program. This won't be a shelter where people are lining up and waiting to get in and showing up that night and hoping they're going to get a bed. We'll pre-arrange everybody's stay at the shelter far in advance, and we'll use publicly available databases and all of that. Again, safety is the most important thing, so we have to make sure that who we're bringing in, it will be a safe environment.
Is transportation provided?
Yes.
Upon intake, are their belongings searched and stored?
Their belongings will be searched, and we'll see on the plans there's outdoor storage, so everything can remain outside.
What is the typical length of stay?
Typical length of stay will be 30 days, but everybody will be working with our staff, and so if they're working towards permanent housing or plan, we can extend that stay.
What about alcohol and drugs?
There'll be no alcohol or drugs allowed.
And that is a firm and fast rule, no exception.
Yep.
How would you describe the overall goal and the proposed shelter?
Our overall goal is to move people out of homelessness and to end homelessness, and that's very hard to do when people are sleeping in cars and sleeping in the woods and on the street. And so creating a safe place for people to stay overnight, which improves safety in the community and for those that we serve, allows us to do that.
I have no further questions.
Thank you. We'll start with Mr. Peters.
No questions, Mr. Chairman.
Mr. Weiser.
I do have a number of questions, if we could. Can you walk through somebody who presents themselves as a client and they are found to have some measure of substance dependency? How do you deal with that?
If somebody has substance dependency,
Well, if they are,
if somebody's under the influence
Under-
and
thank
believes
you.
they're a risk to themselves or other people, they're not going to be allowed into the shelter.
so what happens to them?
So we would call 211 and reach out to other resources to see if we were able to find somewhere else to go for them.
And what happens to them while that is
Same
in
thing that
process?
happens to them right now. People are living on the street or in the cars or something.
Okay, but are they on your site while you're trying to?
Typically, if we're arranging for somebody to come into the shelter, that pre-screening has been done far in advance. So by the time they show up, that's not something that would typically happen.
Do walk-ins show
We're not
up?
going to take walk-ins to the shelter.
wait till he finishes the question, you can talk at the same time.
Go ahead, you got the gist of the question.
We won't take walk-in.
So, how does the screening take place?
During the day through our coordinated entry programs, our program that's currently been running, and it's been running there for 14 months. Back staff will identify people that are appropriate for the shelter, and they'll make that a referral when there's an available bed
And where does that take place?
at the existing location.
So, I'm asking this as a question, it is possible that there are people that are under the influence or have some measure of under the influence that will show up, not be permitted into your program, and then nothing? And then they're on their own, I guess?
Yeah, we would do our best to connect them with any available resources in the community. But if we feel that they're a threat to others in the facility or to themselves, we're not going to allow them into the shelter.
You don't discharge them into the street.
No.
You arrange for transportation for them to be taken elsewhere. Would you describe the elsewhere?
Folks, before we get started.
Mr. Chairman, if I can just interject, there's a lot of people here, everyone's gonna have their chance to speak, and it's very important that one person speak at a time, and the person at the microphone is the one that has to speak at this time. We have a court reporter who's taking down everything, so if people have questions, there's gonna be a time where you'll be able to ask your questions, but for right now, it's Mr. York's opportunity to ask his client questions, and the board and the professionals up here. So, go ahead, Mr.
The question was, what happens if someone today, let's not worry about the shelter, someone today shows up not suitable? Are they discharged?
Yes, we would discharge them. We would look for a location that would be better suited for them.
And you
we
would-
would work to provide transportation.
So you don't just put them out in the
Discharge
street?
them to the street, correct.
You provide transportation so that another agency would take charge of them.
Correct.
And that's what's going on now.
Correct.
What are those, educate me, what are those other agencies?
We work with a number of people that are in the room today. Just Believe is here, collaborative support programs, Mental Health Association. There's a number of other groups.
Okay. You talked about, pardon me, you talked about controlled access. How does that work?
The doors would be locked, so people we're not allowing people to just walk in.
So it's access to the building, not access to the church campus, the grounds. You don't have control over the grounds.
We do not have control over the ground.
Okay. You talked about behavioral expectations. Can you run through what those might be?
Yeah, I think you could say, it's a list of anything that you would expect for people living in a congregate environment, that they're respectful to everybody else that's there, that they follow the rules that are in place around using the bathrooms and the living spaces and things like that.
Are the units self-contained, or is it common bathrooms, common eating facilities?
We'll get into the plans directly. There are some individual bathrooms, yeah.
Okay. Are these single-room occupancy? Are they family units? How does that work?
It's a congregate facility, so it is beds in a room.
Okay. I know you touched on what happens to your clientele during the day, but I'm not sure I caught it all, so may I ask you to run through that again?
What we're doing currently during the day?
What your expectation is should this application be approved?
Oh, sure. So we, in the morning at the end of the night when everybody's moving on, we would work to bring people to the various programs that they're engaged in. So there's a number of day programs that they might go to. They might have an appointment. They might need to go to the Board of Social Services, or they could go to our program upstairs. They won't just be released to the street to walk places. They will be provided transportation, and it's our staff's responsibility to work with them to make sure that they have and are engaged in those different programs. Every individual will be a little bit different based on their needs.
And everybody is required to be in a program?
We will, it's not gonna be a requirement, it's just we want people to be engaged in programs and services, so whatever it is, based on their needs, right? So again, some might be employed, some may be at the library, some may go to Board of Social Services to apply, some might be in programs upstairs, they may be looking for employment, things like that.
Or when you say go to the library, does that mean
Use
not be in a
computers.
program, just be on their own like I might go to a library?
People might go to the public library to use computers to look for jobs and things like that, yeah.
Okay. The overnight aspect, what are the hours? Take a step back, I apologize. Are there hours where people need to be there? Are the doors locked at some point in time overnight?
Yeah, and so the shelter would open at 5. We would work out a really detailed schedule when the time comes, obviously. But yeah, there would be a dinner time, and then there would be time where everyone goes to bed, and that's basically it. No one's really allowed in and out after that.
And when you say 5 in the evening?
5 in the evening is
Okay.
when we would open for
And-
people to come in.
So you are serving dinner?
Yes,
How many meals are you serving a day?
breakfast and dinner.
Breakfast and dinner? And are all of the clients required to be in place for dinner?
It would depend on what they have going on. If they have jobs or different things and they're not able to get there, we would work around that.
Is there a curfew?
There would be a curfew set.
Okay.
Unless, again, somebody had a job and there was a, extenuating circumstance. But,
yeah.
yeah.
Thank you. Mr. Chairman, I probably will have a million other questions, and I imagine you will be available, Ms. Moore, to be able to answer them as more testimony is elicited.
Yeah.
I think, Mr. Chairman, that that's all I have written down.
Thank you, sir. Mr. Dasty.
Mr. Chairman, just briefly, Ms. Moore, you kind of touched on it, but I think you should explain it a little more in depth. How do you match your clientele? Because you had indicated that there's not people waiting in line to get in, that it's prearranged. Well, kind of explain how you know who's going to be walking in the door and who's going to be matched to a bed.
Sure. So because of the work that we're already doing through coordinated entry, our staff are engaged and have a roster of individuals that are currently homeless. And so through that roster, they can identify people that we're working with during the day.
Okay, it's just like a running list. If your name's at the top, you get called.
We work out what the most appropriate plan is for that. Usually we do something based on vulnerability and needs. It's a small shelter and it's a much larger need.
Would you describe, in response to Chris's question, what the coordinated entry program is?
Sure. So coordinated entry is a program that is required by HUD, the U.S. Department of Housing and Urban Development, that every county must have a coordinated entry system for individuals experiencing homelessness. And the idea is that it serves as sort of, for lack of a better word, the main waiting list of everybody that is experiencing homelessness in the county, so that we can identify everybody who is out there, what that universe of individuals are. And then the goal is to work with people based on their vulnerability. So every person on our coordinated entry list has gone through a thorough assessment, so we know what their needs are, and that kind of assessment results in a score. And we can rank that based on vulnerability, and that score, the idea is that all federal funds are required to be prioritized for people that have the highest vulnerabilities first, to make sure that we are prioritizing people with the greatest needs. And so through that, we have a pretty comprehensive idea of individuals that are experiencing homelessness. All of the providers that work in the community, there's many of them that do outreach and provide feeding programs and all of that, they will refer those clients to us, so they can be a client of another program, but they also remain on our list, so that when housing opportunities become available, we use that list to help refer people.
So just to be clear, the coordinated entry program is a county program for homelessness, not just this shelter, but homelessness in the entire county.
Correct.
And the outreach you're doing now, how does that play with the coordinated entry program that was asked?
So our staff does not do a lot of actual outreach. We rely on our partners to do that outreach, and they're referring people in. Individuals who are experiencing homelessness know that we're there, and they know to come in, and they know to call our staff. And so that's how we're providing most people.
So it is a county list, it's a Ocean County list.
Correct.
Okay. Another question I had is, lack of a better word, vendors, people that are not staying in beds, do you have any reason for other organizations to come in to meet with the clientele? Do you have things on site?
I'm not sure I understand.
So people are going to be living in the beds, right? And they're going to have breakfast and dinner. But are you going to have other organizations come in to either meet with these individuals or to?
Yes, absolutely, and we do that currently during the day. We have agency days where we bring in all of our providers and partners in the community, and there's showers that are available now currently and all of that. So Board of Social Services comes in and sets up and help people sign up. So the goal is that we have people in one place, let's bring all those services to them, get them linked up with everything that they need so that they can move on.
That's all I have, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. Mr. Weiser, you have one more?
Yeah, I've got two questions, actually. Teeing off on the last, your last answer, where there are other social service providers that come in, are they dealing with homeless individuals that are not in your program? Are you providing space for those not in your program?
So our coordinated entry program ideally incorporates everybody who's experiencing homelessness, and so we likely have common clients, right? So they're most likely all the same people. If they are working with somebody who's not in our system, then we get them into our system.
But are you having people in your building for counseling that are not staying as part of the shelter?
Yeah, the daytime program as it operates today will continue to operate. So there will be people that come in during the day who are not staying in the shelter at night.
Thank you. And in terms of the services that you're describing, you say there are a host of other people or other groups, other organizations in the county that provide these services. Are they located throughout the county, or are they located, well, are they mostly located in Toms River, or are they throughout the county?
I don't know the addresses of all of the locations where they work, but I do believe many of them are based in Toms River.
Okay, thank you.
Anything else, Mr. Weiser?
No, I'm sorry, not at the moment.
Okay. From board members, any questions? Mr. Mullen?
First and foremost, I want to say that I do the food distribution on Fridays, and I am aware of the situations that are going on. That being said, I do have a couple of questions. Maybe I missed something. You had stated that there were over 500 people that had been helped. Is that at this location since last year?
Since we started at the location, yeah, over 500 people have come in and entered into our coordinated entry system.
Okay, and that's men, women, children. What are your age ranges that you deal with right now?
We see everything from families to the elderly.
Sorry, I wrote everything down. The shelter itself, you're having 17 beds. It's the plan right now. Is that men and women, women and children?
It would be men and women.
Men
And women, yep.
Okay. I do have concerns with that only, and we've had this discussion regarding another home that was set up on Windsor Avenue, is that the safety becomes an issue for me, and it goes both ways. I'm not saying that it's always the men. Women do accuse men of things that they don't do as well. How is that going to be monitored?
So the space is segregated, so we would have separate sections, and then there's always 2 staff on at a time. So there would be staff down there.
2 on each side or 1 on each side?
They would be both in the area all together. Yeah, we'll have to look at the plans to get the exact. But I know there'll be a spot right there. Yeah.
Okay. You said that the county was funding this project. My question has been, and still is, if the county can fund this project, why not build a permanent shelter someplace else, so that you could put all of this into play early.
Our client would like nothing better for the county to step up and fund it wherever. However, that's not our decision. You would have to go down the street to the commissioners and ask them that question. They have approached AHA to do this, and we're doing, our client and our application tonight is based on what's available and who's willing to provide the space. One of the issues, and I'll ask the question directly, do you have a lot of people volunteering to take in homeless and be part of the shelter system?
We do not.
Do you have any besides this church?
We spent a very long time trying to find a location that would welcome us.
What is your working relationship with Just Believe as far as the past 14 months goes? They had their warming shelter during the winter. How did you work that way? Were you keeping residents overnight at this facility already? No. So were they coming?
She shook her head. You have to give a verbal answer.
We were never keeping anybody overnight.
Okay, so did you work with Just Believe as far as sending people to warming shelter there?
Yes.
On a regular basis?
So our staff work, on Code Blue nights, our staff work with Just Believe and the other Code Blue centers to make referrals to those locations and get people into those beds.
Okay, and that's part of the 500 people that you helped over the past 4
Correct.
months?
Yep.
Will this be only Ocean County residents? I understand they're homeless, they don't necessarily have an address, unfortunately, but will this be regulated to Ocean County residents?
Yeah, so the homeless systems in New Jersey are really county-based, and so the funding will require that the people coming in are Ocean County residents.
I know there's a lot of people here who have opinions. My question is always child safety regarding the neighboring homes. We have children that walk to and from 2 different schools by themselves. I know there's people in here who are very concerned. I'm concerned. When you open the door at whatever time in the morning, let me rephrase that. Are people allowed to leave before you open the door at 8 o'clock or whatever time?
If anybody's leaving earlier, it's because they have an early job that they're going to or an appointment somewhere that they need to get to. Otherwise, it would be part of an organized process to make sure people are getting where they need to be with transportation.
Okay, and I know that the question was asked too. You don't have control over the properties that the church is on, therefore, God forbid, somebody can't get into your shelter because it's full. Where would you send them at night? If somebody were to show up and knock on your door, where are you going to send them?
We would call 211, which is the homeless hotline, and hope that they would be able to make an emergency placement.
And then one last thing, I think, and then somebody else can have a turn. The library. You had mentioned that some of the residents would use the library to use the computers or whatever. The problem right now that we're having, and again, because I do live downtown, is that the homeless are going there on hot and cold days to warm or to cool, and I understand that. But they are also being taken out of there on random occasions as well because of loitering, for lack of a better term. How would you guarantee that that would be prevented?
It's a public library, so if people are using the library as anybody else would, I can't prevent that, but if there are issues, we would certainly create a very strong relationship with the library so that we make sure that they maybe come to our day center instead.
Okay, so would you work then with the county, with the library? The sheriff's department is usually who shows up there.
Yes.
If they said, well, I'm here from your facility, would you then work with the people at the library? Would you come pick them up or?
Yeah, if that's something what we need to do, yeah. I mean, we'd make sure we create a strong relationship so that we're not creating any issues. Our goal is not to create any issues in the community whatsoever.
Thank you so much.
I have one question. Sure. Randy, we're talking about these people as if they're evil, they're different, they're no good, there's something wrong with them. we have to control them. Are those the people that are intended to occupy the shelter, or are they normal, everyday citizens down on their luck?
Thank you for that question. I think that's my hesitation and my nervousness about all of this, because these are people that we work with every day. They are completely normal people. These are our neighbors that are down on their luck, that just need help. It is very, very infrequent that we encounter somebody who has an extreme issue like that we're not able to control, and so that we don't have the resources to help with. So these are just our neighbors.
And again, please understand, I've seen firsthand how desperate some these times have made so many people. But I know, again, with people in the audience, there's two sides. I'm not disrespecting anybody, so please understand that. There are families that I know who are in trouble. But I'm just trying to clarify for some of the people that are here so they understand what it is exactly that you want to do. Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, I'm just going to ask a follow-up question. Mrs. Moore, in terms of people that utilize the beds, is there like again, forget the term, is there like a sign in, sign out so you know if they leave either where they're going or now they're not on site? Something like that?
Yeah, so we would know everybody who's in the shelter, whoever comes in, and when they leave, we would know where they're going, because they're providing that transportation. We're not controlling people, right?
Right.
So for the most part, we would know, yeah.
Thank you.
Any other board members? Mr. Luke?
Yeah, actually, write your report. Could you go back over and just list the major reasons why people are homeless?
Sure.
Because the ones that are the worst are so far down the list according to the percentages here. I mean, this is the 23 report from, I guess, the state of New Jersey. And asked to leave shared residence, 25%, evicted, 18%, loss of job, 8%, relocation, 6%. It doesn't go down to, drug and alcohol use until after about 15 on the list. So most of these people, and my best figure is 463 according to the state's recent stats that are homeless in the county. Is that all correct?
That sounds correct, yeah. There's really a lot of different ways to measure and count, and we have all these data sources, and so that is a statewide report, and that is 100% what we say, yeah.
And there's no facility in the county?
There's
no plan? None? No, thank you.
I have a question. So you mentioned that before 99% of the people that's going to be housed in this place or coming there are going to be United States citizens?
I mentioned that more than 99% of the people that we see that have come through our doors are citizens. Yeah.
Okay. How would we prevent from giving the homeless? I mean, the other question I have is on the homeless, do they determine who is actually mentally stable? Because I work in a town where we have homeless in it and they have them sleep at night, but once the daylight comes, let's say 6 o'clock or whatever, they get breakfast, they go out and they roam the streets and they wind up at the library and there's kids there. So I understand why everybody has the concerns, because you're literally in downtown Toms River where all these residents live. It would be ideal if we were able to do something like Dana said, we're up there, but there's some real major concerns. We're all compassionate. Everybody here wants to help everybody. I totally get that. It's just, I'm really, really torn because this could be a great thing that you're trying to do, and it could also turn 180 degrees to bad. I know that you guys have all good intentions. We can't even predict nowadays who's going to go to the school and do something crazy in there, let alone if we start bringing these home. I'm going to be honest with you. This world is crazy today. It's crazy. I don't know. It looks like you're trying to do a great thing, but we have to make a decision. For all these people, and listen, I'm going to tell you, even growing up in Toms River my entire life, we brought people in off the street. Those days that when we grew up and your compassion and youth, they're gone. I mean, I can't even go out my backyard of my house without my wife locking me out because she's afraid of death. I'm telling you the truth. She locks me out because...
Well, we would find a bed for you.
Listen, I can survive out of this. But I'm going to tell you, I see in the town that they're having a lot of these, I don't even know what they call them, these houses that are open They're supposed to be quote-unquote secure, and these people get out of there, and they're roaming the streets. Why? Wives are home, and kids are home. That's not a good environment, and I'm not against this at all. By all means, I'm just trying to enlighten everybody that, even all these people that are sitting in the audience, that we understand what they're going against. We have to try to make some kind of decision and balance this out where, and I don't want to be gross, or I don't want to be, I've seen it where they go to the libraries. They don't use the bathrooms inside. And guess what? People have to go and clean it. It's not a good sight when kids are going there. And I understand that the people that work for you are going above and beyond. I wish that I had their compassion in their heart. I mean, we need more people like that in this country that are willing to help other people. But my problem that I'm having with this is, you're on Washington Avenue, downtown. It's tough.
Let me ask you a question. Randy, what he has described is not ordinary, normal citizens that use your service, is it?
No.
The people that use your service, do they wear or look like homeless people? Are they identified? Do they have a patch on their arm that says homeless?
Everyone, please, listen. We have a court reporter up front that's doing a great job trying to take down what the witnesses are saying. So I know we're in a day and age where everyone likes to boo and hiss, but it's really important that we make a record. Everyone's got have their opportunity to speak. But I think everyone needs to keep their voice down. Let's hear what's said. And like I said, everyone's going to have an opportunity to come up, ask questions, or give their piece. Okay? Because if we don't do that, we'll be here until 3 o'clock in the morning. Okay?
Randy, would you answer the question?
The people that are using our shelter and our services are everyday people. We've been there for 14 months and we have not had issues. We've been there for 14 months and people are not roaming through yards and knocking on doors and creating issues. They're leaving our daytime program and they're sleeping in cars, they're sleeping on the street, they're sleeping in the woods in unsafe locations. Creating a shelter for 17 people will allow 17 people to sleep inside in a safe, secure place where they're not left to be in those things and create those fears that you claim might happen. I understand the fears, I certainly do, but we do this every day. We work with these clients every day. These are everyday normal people.
I'm just torn, I gotta be honest with you. I go to
I need the audience to stop calling out. I cannot hear the board members or the witness.
And I appreciate your compassion, and I understand totally. I go to Wells Fargo, right there on 4th Avenue. I park the car. I literally know what's down there. I look over there. It's homeless. There's tents down. I totally understand it. I'm just trying to grasp. You know, the county just like Dana said, the county has all this money, and I wish that, you know what, there was a place, and not to put them in any other town, but downtown Toms River is a tough way, and I understand it. It's only 17, I get it. I appreciate that. I'm concerned a good thing can turn bad. I mean, you have all great intentions, and I love it.
Randy, in the year you've been there, has anything turned bad? Have you had people wandering the church property? Have you had calls from the police saying people have come from your facility, walked downtown and created a problem?
Not at all.
And you've been there since July of 23.
Correct.
But those are not going to be the same people that are going to be
Folks, this will be the last warning. If you guys can't compose yourself, those who are out of order will be asked to leave. The record must be kept clean for the applicant as well as the Board of Adjustment. Please, everyone will have the opportunity to speak.
I'm good. Just if anybody else has any questions.
All right. Tony.
I appreciate what you're trying to do also. Earlier you mentioned
Can you turn on the mic?
Sure. Earlier you mentioned about the county is funding this. I don't know if I misheard you or not, but I thought you said the fund was the COVID fund. Is that correct?
There are bus funds through the county.
From the COVID fund?
Correct.
Okay, so who actually granted the county that money? Do we know? Is that a federal?
They're federal
grant or
funds.
something? Okay, so my question is, one of them is that, God forbid that we get hit with another wave of COVID that we had, how are we going to replace that money if we use it for?
The funds have already been awarded and committed for this purpose.
And why they call it COVID, why is it a COVID?
They're the American Recovery Act funds, ARPA funds. I probably misspoke when I said COVID, but that's commonly what people know them.
Okay, all right, I was just trying to clear that up. And then, as far as your screening process, what are the qualifications? Who actually does your screening?
The screening will be done by our staff.
What are their qualifications?
They're individuals who've worked with homeless clients for a long time. So
Rephrase that, like what their education, their background?
it varies.
Are they licensed social workers? Are they law enforcement?
No, they're not. They're, I think far and away, you'll see that people who work in this type of environment with individuals experiencing homelessness come from a lot of different backgrounds. We don't set strong expectations on that. Often some of them have moved out of homelessness themselves, which is really some of our best staff because they know what it's like and they're able to identify issues and challenges in other people. And so they're trained on de-escalation and identifying different challenges and issues, and you know, they're the ones working there with the individuals, so it's in their best interest that the people that they're accepting into the shelter are suited for that environment.
What kind of things you use to screen people out that in the event that they did have a criminal background or they were on some kind of one of the mandatory lists for
right, so no
child abuse or anything like that?
Right, so we definitely wouldn't take anybody on the Megan's list. Anybody with any type of, typically anything with any type of violent background, we would screen out.
How do you do that? You guys run a clear check? No, but what, I'm asking what you guys do. You run a clear check, do you run NCIC? What do we do?
We would use the publicly available databases to do that.
You coordinate with local law enforcement though too?
We could do that, yeah. What we do.
But do we do it now?
What we do currently in Monmouth County is the county works in partnership with us to do that screening, and so we would probably look to build a similar relationship with the county to do that here.
The county investigators, the prosecutor's office, the local police, who does that?
They're publicly available databases that we're able to screen through, and so we're able to pull everything through that. I don't have the list of them with me, I'm sorry, I should have brought those.
Okay, thank you.
I just have two questions. One is a follow-up to Mr. Fontana. With respect to the COVID funds, at some point that grant will sunset, correct? Is there additional funding sources for after when those funds sunset?
I can't speak to what the county might have available. I know that if we move on our timeline, the funds are there, they're committed, and they're available to do this.
And in the event there aren't additional funds, what happens?
We will work very hard to find them.
Okay. And then last, to piggyback on Mr. Weiser's question, we talked about drug and alcohol screening. I was interested to know whether or not you have equipment on site to do screening, or if the screening is on the honor system and only based on maybe some physical signs.
So we would do basic behavioral assessment of that. We wouldn't do the screening ourselves. If there was a major concern, we might do something like that, but we don't. That's how we've operated for 10 years in Monmouth County, and it's worked.
Okay. Board members, any other questions?
So you don't do no random drug testing or anything like that then?
We would not. It's really behavioral based.
This is a very emotionally charged issue. My concern is that we're on a very, and again, I'm active with other not-for-profits that help these type of situations. My concern is that we're on a slippery slope. How many, and I know you had said before that their last address of record is Tom's River. How do we determine accuracy of that? And how do we, my concern is that Tom's River needs to take care of Tom's River. But also, like Berkeley needs to take care of Berkeley, and the other surrounding towns need to be taking care of their own homeless issues, because Tom's River cannot bear the burden of everyone. And I know you're only talking about 17 beds, but that's the start, from my perspective, the start of something that could turn into something bigger. And that's where other issues come into play that may not do the due diligence that you folks do. What kind of plans are in place for the bigger picture? Because this is like a short-term fix for me. There needs to be a plan in place to deal with the broader scope of what the homelessness issue is. You know, and like what Dana said, You know, Tom, we're perfectly willing to take care of Tom's River residents, but we have to have a means in place to determine if they are in fact former Tom's River residents. And it's a county program. If we find county land, come get in touch with some type of government facility that'll help build a facility on county land. You know, it doesn't have to be a pre-existing building. You know, that's my main concern, that we're on a slippery slope.
Jeff, the only I can say to you is, we're here on this application based on the law that's available. We're not here to solve the world's problems. This application stands on its own, and as a matter of law, I'm talking as a lawyer, the only concern we have with this application are the 17 beds and how it will work. We cannot, nor would we agree to discuss how we solve the bigger picture and the bigger problem. That's not part of this application.
No, I understand that, but I think having a plan somehow in place so that we can look towards, so that the 17 beds makes more sense in the long term.
That's not before this board. And with all due respect, any discussion of that, and you can listen to Mr. Dasty and not me, is inappropriate. That's not what this application is. This application is for 17 beds at the Christ Episcopal Church on Washington Street. We're not here to discuss about anything further. We have engaged in some of that discussion, but you're asking us to answer a question that A, we can't, and B, is not part of the application.
So let me ask you this, so right now, you actually have 17 people that you're housing overnight now?
We're not housing anybody.
So that's what I'm
overnight.
saying. So you're not doing that, you're asking us to allow that to take place?
Correct.
So I used to work in IT, and we had access into the computer room or not. So you talked about letting access. How do you guys plan on doing that?
Access to the building?
Yeah.
You know, that's details into the weeds of our design that I don't think we've gone to yet, but we would want a secure facility. Right now, we have locks on all the doors that have key codes, and so our staff have those codes to get in. We would keep something similar so that people couldn't walk in off the street. Obviously, we do not want people walking in off the street in the middle of the night into the
Right.
facility.
So you would have 2 people working there.
Correct.
Somebody walks in, one person has to walk out and open up a door, or use the key code to let them in.
You know, we would figure those protocols out. I don't know that I can answer on that level of detail. We wouldn't let anybody in until we knew who they were. We might have a camera system so we know who's out there. You know, we're going to obviously be very careful about who's coming into the building.
Right. Okay. This isn't for this, but there was a site that I knew that had it where you had to get a key code, walk through a hallway, and then if you walk too fast, the doors would close on you, and the security would come. It was crazy, but it was for a major facility, so yeah, I just wanted to ask about that.
Any other board members? All right, so we'll go into the public. Just a reminder that this portion of the meeting is for questions on this witness's testimony only. I guess we can consider it operations to a certain extent. I'm gonna have you guys come up. Again, questions, no comments, no opinions. And I'm going to ask counsel on both sides to enforce the opinion or restrict the questions if it's not relating to this witness's testimony. If you guys want to start, maybe we can start on the right-hand side and just start to line up a little bit.
Just a reminder, they can have comments at the end. So
Yeah, comments will be taken at the end. This is only questions at this point. Also, please give your name and address to the court report.
Paul Williams, Broad Street, Township, New Jersey.
What number?
35. Meeting this morning. I have several questions, and one is, I heard your testimony that it was related to there not being anyone else that wanted to donate property. And one of my questions is, what efforts did you or your agency extend in an effort to locate property?
Our staff worked and through primarily the religious network, so a lot of the different churches, they explored what was available for lease and different things, and when we identified this site, this seemed to make the most sense, given the location and the willingness of the owner to work with us and to provide that welcoming environment.
It seems to be a consistent theme then that the only place that your agency may have looked for is a church.
No, I mean, we looked at what else was for rent. I mean, we looked for a place that we thought we would have a path forward, that we could move forward. And so, you know, I'm not prepared with all the different locations and everything that we looked at today, but we definitely spent a lot of time, I have colleagues in the room who spent a lot of time on that, trying to, you know, sending us listings. We weren't prepared to purchase something because obviously we didn't have the funds to do that, and we wouldn't purchase something unless we had the approvals to operate it there. And so this was a site that we could use for the short term, for the day program, and then transition into the shelter.
Now, how long have you been with your current agency?
About 4 years.
4 years. And to your knowledge, your agency has been there about 10 years.
We've been doing work throughout Ocean County for at least 10 years, yeah.
Okay. But you're situated in Monmouth County, correct?
Our main office is in Monmouth County, but we have our office here in Township.
And the shelter that your agency operates is in Monmouth County?
Correct.
And so my point and my question was about the 10 years that you guys have had a homeless shelter in Monmouth County.
Oh, yes, I'm sorry.
All right. Has the homelessness issue in Monmouth County been resolved?
It has not.
That's not. But how many beds are in the homeless shelter that you operate in Monmouth County?
16.
16. Now, when you say that you or your agency has been looking for places, did you or your agency employ a realtor?
We spoke with realtors, yeah.
And did you have the cash on hand, or is your agency pre-approved for a mortgage?
We were ever trying to...
Objection. This goes way beyond the direct testimony and is not relevant to the application.
I'm going to suggest that it is relevant.
Well,
And I'll explain that. Like,
Please allow counsel to respond.
Mr. Chairman, the application before the board is the application down the street on Washington Street. The issue as to whether it could go somewhere else, frankly, in large part is irrelevant, because the application before you is there's 17 beds on Washington Street. So we need to restrict the question and testimony as the application that's before then, not whether or not there were realtors involved, or they looked at a property anywhere else, or whether they could afford a property anywhere else. This is the application.
If I may, through the chair, I would like to explain that the point and purpose of my question, although Mr. Dest disagreed, the point is that the applicant has to meet a burden that this is a need, and that it's a need in that particular location.
Objection. That's not the law. And that's why it's irrelevant.
But I can move. I think I made
Mr.
my
Chairman, the need really isn't the question. It isn't inherently beneficial use.
Can't hear you.
Whether they can
It's the
make-
microphone.
The need, frankly, is in large part somewhat irrelevant. The application for you is inherently beneficial use, and the applicant has to meet their burden. Reasonable parties can disagree as to whether there actually is a need, but that's not really the question. Okay.
So that'll be the position of the board.
always up. So I also heard your testimony where you talked that your agency has been operating at the current location here on Washington Street for about 14 months. And that, I think it was in fact in response to Mrs. Mullen's question, was that if there was an issue, for example at the library, that your agency would begin to develop a strong relationship with the library staff, perhaps the sheriff's department, and with that. Have you not felt the need to do that already?
And our staff already have those relationships. I'm not there every day, so the team, we have those relationships. If there was, I think I was speaking directly to if people were leaving the shelter and going there, that's something that we would work out, yeah.
When you said you're not there every day, are you planning on being there every day if this application is approved?
Our staff would be there, so our director of homeless services and our staff, everyone would be there.
So let me, correct me if I'm wrong, is it safe to say that you have been and you will continue to rely on your staff for an assessment of what is and isn't going on in this area with regard to your clients?
Yeah, we're a $10 million nonprofit organization. We operate many, many programs. I can't be everywhere at every time, and so I have a wonderful team of staff that are here today that I trust very much to run these programs.
It's an industry now. The NFL is nonprofit. Yeah, right.
You said it's a $10 million program.
Our operation,
Operation.
our entire organization.
Some part of your budget is $10 million, if not the entire budget.
It's public information. Our entire organization, our operating budget is $10 million. We operate permanent housing, a number of programs that I spoke about earlier.
For example, some of your clients, you may fund some kind of housing assistance for some of your clients.
Yeah.
Like maybe a voucher system or something like that.
We do a lot of that.
That's enough.
Your neighbor?
Folks, you guys, can you keep this conversation to a minimum, please? Thank you.
One of the questions that came up and that you answered somehow involved screening for people with criminal records, and perhaps they may be on some, for example, a Megan's list or something like that. Can you tell us again, to the best of your ability, what is that process? What's the verification process?
We have not built the exact verification process until we're up and running, but what I can speak to is what we do in other areas. We would do the same thing. And so it is using publicly available databases to pull those background checks and make sure that the people that we are bringing in, we don't believe are a risk or a threat to anybody there, including the Megan's Law list.
And so then, aside from the Megan's Law list, what else is your
And I should have come prepared with those today, but there are a number of systems that we're able to use that we can call you plug everything in and you see if people have any convictions or anything on their record that we think would rise to the level of being unsafe.
In the 14 months that you've been operating here on the Washington Street location, do you utilize that at all?
We don't use that at all. We've had no issues whatsoever with the people walking in without doing any screening on them.
So the screening that you're suggesting would only be if it's going to be operating
overnight.
Correct. And to the best of your ability, tell me what would be disqualifying from being able to?
Yeah, I think I already answered this. I mean, any violent history, anything that we think would rise to that level. So we would have those standards set. If there's very recent situations that are especially violent crimes, burglary, and different things that we think would be concern, we would definitely look at that.
Would that include, for example, someone who's been recently released from jail or prison?
And we're going to look at every case individually. There are a lot of protections in New Jersey around housing and criminal backgrounds that we believe in, and we want to make sure everybody has a fair chance. We know that people are often arrested because they are living on the street, and so it's a fine balance. So I can't answer black and white right now who we would take. We would do it in a way that we would make sure that we're taking people that are safe. Look, we want our staff to be safe. We've been doing this for a long time. We do not want to bring people in that are going to create a problem. So the concerns that you have, we have to. We're there. We're with you. Like we work with everybody to make sure that we're doing this in a way and bringing people in that are not going to create that environment. Again, the people we're serving are everyday people. We're not seeing a huge number of people with really severe criminal backgrounds.
Now, I want to talk about your population again.
Mr. Williams, the board's never cut off public questions, but in the interest of having as many people heard as possible, if it's possible.
Can I just one more question?
Yes, please.
Thank you. You said that the screening is done in advance. Can you tell us that process? For example, how would...
Mr. Chairman, this was part of her original testimony. I would object to asking the same question that's already been testified to. This is a point to ask questions about what was testified to, not to have the witness reiterate everything that she testified.
I'm attempting to have the witness clarify.
Just like to hear
Hang
from
on one
counsel.
second. It has been asked and answered, I think twice already. I would ask the witness if she has anything else to add, and then if not,
I do not.
Thank you, thank you.
Thank you. Please step forward, give your name and address.
Chairman, board members, Ryan Tello, 504 Washington. Tello, T-E-L-L-O. As it does not pertain to you, and I can, commend everything that you're doing for the homeless. I myself have a nonprofit. I just wanted to talk in terms of.
It's not a question related to the witness's testimony.
It's comments later?
This is
yeah,
not-
comment to the answer.
Thank you, I appreciate it. Thank you.
Gerard Madonna, 412 Washington Street. M-A-D-O-N-N-A, just like the senator. So my question is simple.
Yeah, if you can step forward here.
What makes this different than all the homeless institutions that I've seen through North Jersey Road Club that ruins a community because they start out with good intentions like you do, and they end up being a lightning rod and also a corporation thing. It ends up being an industrial complex, which ruins, I've seen it ruin communities in 5 years.
I spent 20 years of my career working in homeless and affordable housing, and I started out during, I started out at a nonprofit that worked all over the state developing homeless plans and working with communities to develop homeless plans.
Okay.
I worked at a nonprofit in Patterson that worked with people and built housing for people who are homeless, and I worked for 10 years in county government running homeless systems. I've not seen what you're speaking about. That's not something I've ever witnessed in my career.
I find that very hard to believe.
Objection, that's a matter, sir, it's a matter of opinion, please.
Okay.
Questions only related to the testimony. You'll have an opportunity to make.
So after your 30-day turnaround time, you said they saved an extra 30 days, correct?
That's our estimate, like that may change, right? It's going to change based on people's needs, so we can extend that, yeah.
Please allow-
Let's go one at a time.
Please allow her to
Okay,
finish.
everybody take a breath in between questions, okay?
Do you ever have people come back again?
Oh, certainly, we've seen people come back.
Okay, so if somebody leaves and doesn't come back one night, what if they show back up the next day? Do you just accept them back in?
Yeah, we work out a plan for that. We likely wouldn't fill that bed right away because it'll take a couple of days for us to qualify somebody else to move in. And so that's a great question. That's something that we would look into. We would depend on the circumstances and what was going on. I can't give a black and white answer to that.
Do you have a detailed list of who does come through, when they came through, why they came through, and what happened to them? So that in 3 or 4 months, they don't cycle back through again?
The state has what's called HMIS, or the Homeless Management Information System. So every program that provides services for individuals experiencing homelessness throughout the state must enter information on the clients that they serve in that. So not only can I tell you if they've come back to our shelter, I can tell you if they went to a shelter in another county or another community or they access resources anywhere else. So it's very detailed and comprehensive, and we keep really good data. That's why I know the data I'm sharing is real and accurate, because we're required to do that.
So there are no homeless people out there that you're not aware of, that aren't a part of the system?
I didn't say that, no.
Well, I think that's everybody's concern. I mean, that's...
We're talking about
because there's really more questions than answers.
They live in tents already.
Well,
Folks.
no, what I'm saying is that...
Folks, hang on. If you're asking questions, ask a question to the witness, and if you're going to speak, sir, speak this way.
Okay.
To answer your question, I'm sure there are plenty more individuals experiencing homelessness than we have in our system, because the need is really great. So yes, there are many more people experiencing homelessness than we know of.
Okay, that's it.
Thank you, sir.
My name is Bob Lethner, 305 Washington. L-E-C-H-N.
L-E-C. What was the last name, sir?
Lethner. I couldn't see who was speaking to me, so.
No problem.
I just said, our ideas of compassion are probably 180 degrees different. 900 square feet for 17 people. 900 square feet, I'm going to guess, is about a third the size of this room right now.
Sir, time to ask questions.
Yeah, I'm trying to get to it. What is the footprint for 17 people with bathrooms with a staff in 900
We will
square feet? You're gonna
supply
give them-
an architect as a witness to describe the square footage. 950 square feet is the addition to the existing building, not the total square footage.
Okay, you hope that 211 can take the people that you have to turn away. What is your alternative to hope?
There are very few resources in our community that exist right now, and so we
Sir,
are
you have to
working.
let her answer the question.
So we are working to build a shelter for the people that we can house. We will work with anybody else out there. When it's a code blue night, we'll get them to the code blue shelter. We hope that more resources are created. You're right, hope isn't an answer. Hope doesn't fix that, but all we have is hope, because right now everybody's sleeping on the street and we're turning people away every day. And so we will work to transport them to locations where they feel safe sleeping that night. People sleep in their cars, people sleep in other places. All we can do.
Whoa, ma'am, please.
I'm leaving that way.
Thank you.
You know what? You guys have sat there
Ma'am,
and looked
please.
with us. You're living up across the street from us. We came here to ask questions and all you do is
Thank you for your
lecture us.
opinion, ma'am.
Yeah. Seriously. It's a joke. You sat here and lectured us the whole
Thank you.
time. When
Thank
we
you.
came here to ask you questions. We came here to ask questions.
Questions are being asked, ma'am. Please excuse yourself out of the room.
Oh, I am.
Thank you.
I only have one more comment, no,
Excuse me, can you just hold on 1 second?
You're a bunch of clowns.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
I also would like to point out that the NFL is a
Promise you,
nonprofit.
5
So
years,
that's
this
gonna-
community will be destroyed.
Sir, please.
It's like a lightning rod.
Thank you.
I've seen it before.
Thank you.
I just said the NFL is a nonprofit too, so that doesn't impress me.
That's not a question, sir, please.
I'm allowed to make a comment.
You can make a comment at the comment portion, yes.
That's it, that's what I said.
At the comment portion, thank you. Not my choice. Thank you, Mr. Murphy.
My name is Bruce Lynn, I live on Washington Street, right opposite the golf course.
I spell your last name
Mim, M-I-H-M,
and what number Washington Street?
426. Okay, a couple questions. Right now, how long is your funding, okay, that you have currently gotten from the county?
The funding to build the shelter, I believe we have till 2026.
What happens if, I heard you
That's
say-
to build the shelter, so it will be,
Okay, and what about the operating budget for that shelter?
the operating budget will be provided by the county.
So from a
Ongoing.
full ongoing?
That is the commitment we've been given, yes.
Are there any social workers, licensed social workers that be at this facility?
We work with a number of partners that employ licensed social workers, and some of our staff may be, but it's not a requirement that we have for our existing staff. We've been doing this for 10 years without it, and it's been very successful.
Okay, and I have one actually major question. Why, somebody up here mentioned before that, or maybe Mr. York mentioned this, that the need for this should have been taken up by another hearing or whatever. Why was that hearing not ever performed? For the need of this public, just because they are currently in a building, okay, and they want to expand to now include social work or social housing. I live on Washington Street. That means I can take in people into my building also if I wanted to?
No.
Okay, right, exactly. That's
We
the
applied-
reason we're talking about all this.
No. We applied for a permit from the township.
To build.
Let me finish. We applied for a permit from the township to provide counseling. As a matter of law, the zoning permit was granted on June 26, 2023. That is how they began. We are now seeking a different permit to allow overnight residents. That's why we're here.
I understand that. But you objected to one of the other questions from one of the gentlemen that said, when he asked about, questioning about ongoing operation of this shelter, you said, this doesn't have anything to do with the permit process for authorizing the shelter.
I never said that.
I believe you.
I did not say that. The question was asked of me, and it became, how are you going to solve the rest of the problem for the rest of the people? And I said, that's improper.
Okay. To that degree, I agree, but two more quick questions.
what's going to possibly, well, no, that's going to be a comment. I'm going to tell you a question. Okay, I think you may have already asked, but if you could please reiterate, what happens after 30 days to these people when their 30-day time limit, the initial time limit is up?
So what I said is 30 days is the estimated length of time that people would stay. We generally work with people and they'll be allowed to stay longer. Our goal is to move everybody to permanent housing, and so we will work with them on a housing plan and to get moved on to permanent housing.
Will there be an actual security representative on site, meaning somebody who is trained to be able to handle issues, let's say, oh, by the way, he took my lunch or something like that issue?
Our staff are all trained in de-escalation and crisis intervention.
I have comments, but I'll leave that for last.
Thank you.
Gene Vogel, 527 Line Avenue, Township, New Jersey. V-O-G-E-L. Good evening. I'm out of my comfort zone.
Sir, if you could just step a little closer to the microphone so we can hear you. Thank you.
Okay. Question is for, I believe this is a church-run nonprofit. What is the oversight or supervision from either the state or the county or the local government?
So we are a private nonprofit organization that is partnered with the church to run the program there. The shelter will be licensed by the state of New Jersey, will be inspected by the state on a regular basis. I imagine this is how it happens in Monmouth County. The county inspects it on a regular basis, and the municipality does as well. We're up to fire code and all those things. So there are a lot of inspections.
Okay, so when you say inspected, that's like security systems and the data recording systems?
They're looking at everything that's there, right? So they're making sure that the facility is safe and secure and in a place and it's viable and fit to house people. So,
okay,
yeah.
and one more question, and I know you covered this. Who has the responsibility for who populates the shelter? Is it this county program or is it the people who are running the shelter? I couldn't figure that out.
So we would do the screening as our organization. We would do the screening probably in partnership with the county, but our staff through our coordinated entry program would screen and determine who is a good fit to put into the shelter.
Thank you.
My name is Mario Romeo. I live at 106 Fair Acres Drive, 2 blocks from.
Can you please spell your last name and what is your exact address for the record?
106 Fair Acres Drive, and my last name is Boemio.
Good enough?
Yeah. Great. So, my question goes to your testimony as to the medical qualifications for diagnosing mental disorders of the homeless population. And I say this because you say you haven't experienced that in your 20 years, and I commend you for your work. But the the American Journal of, the American Medical Association just published, it's peer-reviewed, just published on 17 April of 2024, that 76% of homeless persons suffer from mental disorders. 86%.
Sir, what is your question?
My question
I
is,
object.
on
Sir, one moment. He's making a statement. He has a right to ask questions only.
Please, let him finish, please.
He's cross-examining her on data that he has. I think that's fair. Go ahead.
What I'm asking is, you stated that your staff will screen those that are coming in. What medical qualifications, not 20 years of experience, medical qualifications will your staff have to diagnose what will be 86% of the people coming to this shelter? Great cause, but who is diagnosing PTSD, social anxiety disorder, substance abuse? These are real questions that we have. We live in this community. I live 1 block from there. So my question is, what steps have you taken? What trained staff will you have there all the time? Because these people are going to be coming in all the time. With all due respect to
Can
them.
she answer the question?
Absolutely.
We do not have staff that are qualified to diagnose medical conditions. We are not required to. All shelters that I'm aware of in the state do not diagnose mental illness or any issue before they're admitting anybody into the shelter. In fact, it's actually illegal to deny somebody access to a shelter if they do have a mental illness. The only reason we would deny somebody is if there are behavioral issues that we identify that we think they're a threat to somebody else or themselves. And so I understand your facts about people, what you're reading. I'd have to fact check that and see if that's what's really out there. I get it. What I can say is the numbers that I shared are what we're seeing and the population that we're seeing of people who are reporting and that they have experienced mental health or substance abuse issues. And let's also be clear that I'm not qualified to diagnose or talk about mental health issues, but we know that a number of those issues are things like anxiety and depression that are not severe and significant. So when you read those numbers are really, really high, and that's not talking about people that might have a condition that might prevent them from living in this environment. As I've said many times, we want this to be a safe place. Our staff need this to be a safe place. We are not trying to just bring people in to create chaos. This is not what everyone is trying to do. We are trying to create a place where people can sleep overnight, work towards their goals of moving back to permanent housing, and move on.
That's all I have. That was my question. So the answer was we do not have the staff on. And that's it. Thank you. You're doing great work. I just have serious concerns about diagnosing these people. So
Thank you, sir.
appreciate it. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Brooke Coleman. I live at 59 Grand Ave in Tom's River. Spell your last name, please. C-O-L-E-M-A-N. This kind of follows up this question. If you guys can take the county money to do this, that has been allocated, why can't there be money allocated to hire someone that's qualified, like a licensed social worker or a licensed therapist or someone that can do drug screening? Because I have a lot of people close to me that have both of those things, and you can't just take their word for it that it's fine. If someone's not qualified to determine that, why not use the money to hire someone?
If the funds allow, and that's something the county wants us to do, we would welcome that opportunity. But what I can say is that in every place that I've ever worked in, every shelter, they're not screening people for that. If people have a substance abuse issue, that doesn't mean that it becomes an issue that immediate night in the shelter, right? And so they're screening people for safety overnight and to make sure that they're not going to create an issue for themselves or for somebody else. And so we're not trying to diagnose individuals. If we want to work with them, we want to talk with them about their issues and link them up with different service providers that can help them. But just because somebody has a mental health issue or illness doesn't mean that they can't live in a shelter. There's plenty of people that I'm sure you said in your family, I have in my family that we know that have mental health issues that can live in a congregate facility. So the existence of a mental health issue does not prevent somebody from being able to stay in a shelter.
That was my question though. To guarantee the neighborhood and the community that they're going to be safe, why not use some of that money to guarantee everybody that?
I will take that into consideration. If that's something we're able to do, we will do it. As I said,
I think I want to go there first. But my last question is, what is the plan to make it secure at night? That when my children are walking around the neighborhood, that just people that they don't know are walking around.
Yeah, right now everybody is walking around at night because we don't have anywhere for them to go. So when we have, right now people don't have.
For 43 years, there's no one walking around my neighborhood.
What I can say is the 17, and they aren't walking around right now. We've been there for 14 months and they haven't been walking around. And we will have a place for people to sleep. Trust me, when people are homeless and experiencing homelessness, they want to sleep in that bed overnight. They don't want to walk around the community. If they've been given that precious opportunity to have a bed to sleep in for the night, they're going to sleep in that bed.
But what prevents them, if they're having a bad night or if they're having a bad day, what prevents them from leaving in the middle of the night or late at night?
The staff we have on hand, the security systems on the doors, making sure we know if somebody's leaving.
So that there's locks on the doors that lock?
Yeah, we can lock people in, obviously, due to fire issues and all of that, yeah, but it's not a locked facility if somebody, but.
So there's no way of locking, there's no way of monitoring the doors at night?
Yeah, there would be alarms on the door, so we know if the door opens. The staff are awake all night, so they're, no, you can't, it's not,
Thank you.
Thank you.
Pam Quatsi, Q-U-A-T-S-E. I live at 1C Swallow Street in Manchester. You mentioned that you're going to have secure the building in the evening, and people you want to make sure your staff is safe, and of course you want to make sure that the other residents are safe. So do you anticipate doing a body search of people? How do you know?
Yeah, we search everybody's belongings before they come in to make sure there isn't any weapons or anything unsafe. Their items will be stored outside, and then when they come in, they'll be able to take a shower and all that. So yeah, that's stuff that we certainly look at.
Okay. And then the last thing is, somebody gets checked in and then they need to have a smoke, and I assume it's a non-smoking facility. So do they go out?
So typically we'd have designated times where people can go out, and there'll be a designated area where people will smoke, but it won't be in and out all,
Okay, and so somebody knows that somebody isn't then taking something in that is unsafe?
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Please step forward.
Matt Docio, D-O-S-I-O, 420 Washington Street. First of all, I really respect what you're doing, and I applaud you. I live right across the street, and I have just two questions for you. The Monmouth County Shelter, is it in the middle of 4 residentially zoned areas?
It is on Fort Monmouth, so right now it is not, but it will be.
Okay, that's a big concern, right in the middle. And then the other one is, you mentioned earlier about a lot of people are sitting in their cars, and the variance includes a pretty considerable amount of parking. What happens if people just decide to park there? That's a potential concern.
That would be something we would defer to the church on. It is their property, and
It's going to be hard to turn them away, and that's just my concern. That's it. That's my question.
Thank you, sir.
Hello, Steve Criolla, 26 Brooks Road. I'll try to push you off the... Criolla, P-R-I-O-L-O. This question is for Harvey York. He's your counsel. You explained the way you're getting away with this R-150 zoning, that you found whatever laws or something that says that this homeless shelter becomes a benefit for society. Is that true?
No. That's not what I said. The statute passed by the legislature, the municipal land use law, explicitly says that this use, a group home, is an inherently beneficial use.
And you also stated in that statement, from what I recollected, that it does not cause a detriment to the neighborhood.
That's not what I said. I said...
That's what I heard.
Let me explain to you. One of the tests that the applicant is required to show is that it is not a substantial detriment. And that is part of what we will do during the course of the hearings, show that it is not a substantial detriment.
I'll say, explain to me where, so I looked up what detrimental effects a homeless shelter does on a community. So explain to me, the presence of a shelter appears to cause property crime to increase by 56% within 100 meters.
Objection, sir. There's no way to prove the statistics that you have.
Well, I'm asking him if this is a detriment to the community. Is crime a substantial detriment to the community?
Gentlemen, one at a time, sir.
Sure. Go ahead.
Right now, the part of the hearing right now is if you have questions of Ms. Moore, anything that she said during her initial testimony.
My question is towards the counsel. I can't question our counsel?
No, you question the witness.
So I'll question the witness. Does she think that crime increasing by 56% is a substantial detriment to the community that we're placing the structure in?
I don't agree with that statistic.
56. So we can all go.
She's answering questions.
So she answered the question. How about decrease in property value? Is that detriment to the community?
Sir, you need to ask her questions as to what she testified to. So cross-examine her on what she's already said.
She hasn't made testimony on property value.
No, but I'm trying to ask questions of what they're determining what a detriment to the neighborhood is. And in my feeling, increased crime is a detriment. I want to ask her answer.
Sir, hey, so
I'm answering the questions.
Ms. Moore's testimony is regarding the operations of the facility, right? How it's going to operate, how they're going to find clientele, employees, things like that. In terms of what is detrimental or not detrimental, I believe that would be a question reserved for the professional engineer and planner who testifies as to the required positive and negative criteria. So you might want to save that question for the planner. If you have questions as to the operations of the business or the nonprofit rather, that's what you can ask.
No, my question is just how we change in the zoning for, so that's not a question.
Which, sir, respectfully, was not part of her testimony. Okay. You'll have an opportunity to ask questions about zoning to the plan.
Thank you.
Thank you. Sure. Before we go any further, a member of the board has a question for council.
Sir, Mr. Gadsden, just so I can get some clarification with this, with Mr. York, quoted case precedents as far as group home, and we're talking about a homeless shelter. Is that considered the same thing?
It is synonymous and it is still an inherently beneficial use. Now, even though it isn't inherently beneficial use, the civic case also says that even if the board were to grant such an application, you can still question and impose restrictions in terms of what the public, you have to weigh what the public interest is at stake, to see if they meet the positive and negative criteria test, what type of detrimental effect there could be with the application or granting the approvals. If you can impose reasonable conditions on an application to lessen any detrimental effect, and also, again, you have to weigh the positive and negative.
It's the same thing then? No, I'm just going, when I was a kid, a group home was like a bunch of kids went to a group home and a homeless shelter.
They are.
So it's the same thing?
They are synonymous. Okay. The Hopes for Home case that Harvey, Mr. York referenced.
Okay, I just didn't know.
I'll go further, we'll talk about it later when we have the planner, but in the statute itself, there are specific types of group homes which are permitted. And Tom's River has adopted, in the R150 zone, a list of specific group homes that are permitted. And we'll have a planner, but they include, I'm going to give them to you off the top of my head, mentally disabled, domestic violence, and there's a bunch that are automatically permitted. So, for example, if the church had decided that this facility will only be for homeless that suffer mental disability or domestic violence, then it would be a permitted use and we wouldn't be here. So if we were to limit it to that category, it's an automatic group home.
Mr. York, we had questions about, the secret balancing act and going over the negative and positive criteria. That will be covered by the plan, correct? Yes. So it will be part of the discussion.
Yeah.
Sure.
To everybody who is upset that you're not being able to ask your questions, Ms. Moore is a witness. You can ask her at this point in time whatever questions you may have for her. When she is done testifying, then you can all come up and make your comments. So please understand that you will be heard.
The public comment is always reserved at the end of the application.
At the end.
At the end.
Yeah, and just not correct you, but
no, go right
they
ahead.
can only ask questions about her testimony.
Correct, which I thought I said, I'm sorry.
And comments will happen
At the end of the application. And we have more than one witness. She is not the only one.
We'll probably have at least 3 more witnesses.
Yeah, so on that note, I just want to make sure the public is aware, as well as the applicant, we have 15 minutes left in tonight's meeting. Clearly, we're not going to a vote tonight. So the remaining members that have questions, if we could try to fit it into those 15 minutes, that would be great. You can step forward, please.
Okay.
Okay. My name is Phyllis Priolo, Priollo, 26 Brooks Road in Township. My question is for you, I'm not sure if I understood properly. Now, you said it's going to be a family shelter?
No, the individuals.
So husband, wife, children?
No, single adults.
Any children?
No children.
Oh, that's what I was wondering, what are you going to do with the children?
Yeah, no,
If there's going to be any children. And then my next question, simple question, with curfew. I know the gentleman before mentioned something about curfew, too, questions to you. So, if they come in late, do you let them back in, or like, what happens to them?
Yeah, so we'll have rules around the time that they need to be there, but, you know, as I answered that question earlier, it's gonna depend on what people have going on. So they have jobs or programs that they're in and they run late, we're going to, of course, allow people to come in late. I don't have a set time I can give you right now, but we would come up with something that would reasonable.
Speak one at a time, speak one at a time, one at a time.
I'm sorry.
I don't have a set curfew time. We'll figure out what makes sense for the program and the community. I think your next question,
Like, what happens if they don't come home?
then they don't come back. And if they,
So you discharge them from the shelter?
we usually would give people, we would give people, we'd figure out what was going on, right? Did something happen? Did they have somewhere to stay that night? Did they end up in the hospital?
You have to let her answer the question,
You
man.
cannot talk at the same time. I'm sorry.
Often people do have friends and family that might let them stay there for a night. We often see that around the holidays or something, that people would extend their home to somebody in that situation. And so we work with every situation case by case.
Thank you.
My name is John Gonzalez. I live at 406 Washington Street, basically directly across the street from the proposed facility.
Sir, can you step closer to the microphone, please? Thank you.
Two questions. You said you would take in, you do the highest vulnerability people. I believe that's what you said. I'm not going to ask you to read it back, but you've assessed, or you do an assessment, and the highest vulnerability people are, quote, admitted, screened, I don't know the specific verbiage you use. What's the criteria for vulnerability?
So just to make sure I clarify what I said, so when we do our coordinated entry assessment, we rank people by vulnerability. So we prioritize people with the highest vulnerability for housing opportunities. So the funding sources, permanent housing opportunities, vouchers, and different things like that. So the funding sources require us to do that. We wouldn't necessarily be doing that with who comes into the shelter, but that's how that coordinated entry system works. Because we would also have to meet, and then we'd have to determine that they were a good fit for the shelter, right?
So the vulnerability analysis that you complete does not translate directly into who is going to be a resident.
Correct.
And that, again, I apologize. That the ranking of that vulnerability is based on availability of funds to provide housing.
The requirement to do that ranking and assessment is required by federal funding that funds all the homeless services, or most all the homeless services that are provided. I'm sorry, say the question again.
Well, the vulnerability analysis that ranks me in higher and lower. What's the criteria?
The criteria. So it looks at, and I don't have it with me, but it looks at like 20 different dimensions of your life. So your access to resources in the community, your relationship with family, mental health challenges, substance abuse, income levels, different things like that.
And I guess the second question I have said, we provide, if I'm not, so if you are not going for services at another location, whatever those services or endeavors may be, we have services upstairs. What are those services?
So that is where the coordinated entry program works, where not only are you put on that waiting list, you know, for available housing, but our staff are working with them, looking for housing, doing housing searches. And then we run our rapid rehousing program there, where I mentioned earlier that we've been able to rehouse 110 households and move them directly out of homelessness and into their own apartments with funding that we have from the county. And so we are able to pay security deposit, first month rent, and help them with some short-term rental assistance so that they can stabilize in those homes. And so we're working with them to collect their documents, get all their eligibility paperwork together for that, and then working with landlords, constantly trying to create relationships with landlords so that we can get people moved into those apartments.
Okay, so those services that you're providing are, for the lack of a better terminology, financial or specifically directed to finding housing as opposed to addressing any potential condition that the participant may have.
So we bring in our partners for that. So just yesterday, we had the Mental Health Association there. We had a number of people in the room, and it's been a long night, forgive me for not renaming all the names of the organizations, but the things that we don't do and we're not experts at, we bring those partners in, and we have a really wonderful community of organizations that we work with that would wrap all that around them. So, you know, we'll bring health issues, we'll bring, you know, organizations that are providing health screenings, we'll provide haircuts, we'll provide anything that people might need, we'll bring those organizations in.
And that is all taken care of upstairs?
Correct.
So if I have a mental health issue, am I being counseled upstairs?
It depends on the day, and it depends on the connections that we have with those organizations. So we would work to connect you with one of the many organizations that do that in the community, and you may be going to their site to do that. You may be doing that upstairs if they're coming to our site to meet with us. And so it could vary based on every situation.
Thank you, appreciate your time.
Sure, thank you.
Thank you. Any other members of the public with a question for Ms. Moore?
I got a question. I'm sorry. Go ahead, so. Robert Posque, 26 Magnolia Lane. Poskay. On your proposal, I just had a quick question. Why no families and why no children?
This, the funding that we got and the request that we had was to develop a shelter for adults, and so that's the direction that we've gone. And there is another shelter, this is really off topic, but I know there is another shelter for families that is being worked on currently, if not already approved.
And just to clarify again, you have like a start time, 5 p.m., and then an end time. And so these are supposed to be a structured schedule through this program? Like at 7 a.m., and do they have somewhere to go?
Yes, I think I spoke about this a lot.
I know, I'm
yeah,
sorry.
no, it's okay, it's
But
okay.
it's not really,
So
like,
there's
clear.
there's not a hard and fast answer, because every individual situation is going to be different. Just like I answered that guy before, right? There's going to be, if somebody's enrolled in a program with another organization, we're working with that organization to get them there, or we're driving them there. If they have a job, they're going to that job. If they are in the middle of a housing search, they may be going around with our staff looking for apartments and meeting landlords. And so,
Okay, so at 7 a.m., they don't get thrown out the door. They're actually staying there.
they can stay, they can move upstairs, or they can go to the day programs or other organizations that they're engaged with.
Okay. Just one other thing. During the course of the evening, I know you said you had staff there, but say someone's having a, mental crisis issue or something like that, and they go AWOL on you. What is kind of like the protocol?
I mean, first and foremost, we're calling 911, and we're relying on the professionals to come in, just like that could happen in any environment. And our staff, as I said, are trained in de-escalation and crisis intervention and all that, and they're going to maintain that situation until the
I'm just
arrive.
saying, so they make their way out the door. Are your staff following them and keeping a visual on them while they go out to Washington Road in the dark? And How does that work?
I don't foresee anybody going out to Washington Road in the dark. As I said, they're coming out to.
Your client leaves out the door and they start walking through the neighborhoods. Is your staff going to accompany them until they can get more help?
Oh, you're saying in the middle of a situation that might occur? Yeah, we would do the best that we can to keep an eye on them and keep the community safe, 100%. Yeah, we would be on the phone with 911 the whole time probably, talking to them about where they are, what we're seeing, yeah. Within reason, as long as everybody's safe. Yeah, I'm sorry, I didn't follow that.
That's okay, thank you, appreciate it. Thank you.
Okay, I think we're gonna have time for maybe one more. Was there one last hand that went up?
Did you want to say a question?
I can't see behind the hand.
Michael Pava, 834 Eastern Court, Township, New Jersey, PA. Question I have for you is you have professionals coming in that are going to help the people in many ways. Have you had any, with all due respect, the residences that are close by, or anybody that's not a part of your team, to visit the facility to see how these people interact or what type of lives they do have? Can you offer the public a chance to witness this happening and to get a better understanding of whether these individuals are derelicts or everyday people like we've been hearing? Again, to see it with their own eyes.
We would welcome that, yeah.
You would welcome it?
Yeah, absolutely, within reason, and we'd love to schedule it, but our doors are open. We welcome anybody in, and we don't ask questions, and we assume if you're walking in, you want services, so, yeah, thank you. That's all I have.
Thank you. And this will be the last question for tonight.
Hi, my name is Paula Leon. I'm at 4 Magnolia Lane. I'm literally Leotta. I literally live behind you, that outreach. And just the other night, I had to call the police because there's somebody in the area, in the picnic area, who was sitting there. He was a homeless man, you know that, because I see him in the morning. And I saw him at 9 o'clock, I'm sorry, I'm nervous. But I saw him at 9 o'clock sitting there, and I can see him from my backyard. I'm a single woman. I don't particularly, I'm concerned because you only have 2 people on staff at night. So how are you supposed to handle that? And what are your standard operating procedures? I'm a psychiatric nurse by training. And this is concerning to me because I've worked in these facilities before as a professional.
So we're not currently operating at night, so if somebody is there, we don't have staff there. I just want to make sure that's really clear, and, yeah.
I'm asking you because this is going to come up, and there's 2 staff members at night.
So our staff would have visuals on what's going on outside, right? And so if there's somebody outside, and if they're part of our program, they will be inside. If there are people loitering or out there, we would have to ask them to leave, and we'd have to engage with the police if we needed, if there was a situation where they were creating something unsafe.
I'm literally, to you, that's my backyard, highly uncomfortable as the safety of a woman by herself.
I think what I can say is that this will be an improvement in that we'll have staff overnight, and we will have people there, and we will have a place for people to be.
We're asking questions. I
understand
the passion that you have, but we have to limit it to questions.
Okay, of course. The only question I have is because being a psychiatric nurse, and I've worked in the facilities before, I know that sometimes staff members unfortunately fall asleep. I've seen it. So how are you going to handle that? And where are your standard operating procedures? Do we have access to seeing those?
We have standard operating procedures for the shelter that we currently run. Obviously, they haven't been created for a facility that doesn't exist yet, and our staff are awake all night.
How can you guarantee that? I'm just thinking.
Or you can answer the questions to the best of your ability, and,
We have 2 staff on all night, and we have cameras in our facility now. We monitor it.
Randy,
they're required to be.
Do your staff fall asleep now?
Our staff do not fall asleep now.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. York, I guess it's time to start scheduling. With more to come, only fair we talked about round 2. Melissa, feel free to...
September 26th is out because we have another application that's going to be a long application. October 10th you have another, they're gonna have, you already have an existing application on October 10th, but
You didn't hear.
oh, what day is it?
He's down the list. October 10th, not going to work because Mr. Scott Kennel's not available. And I'm not sure how far we're going to get with any witness.
October,
So,
the
what
next,
would be after October 10th?
well, you have
Listen, when is the
appeal.
that appeal?
That's October 20, that's October 24th. So right now we have November 14th.
How about October 24th?
Well, they're gonna go after, this application will go after the appeal.
Yes,
Okay.
but I confer with counsel. I don't see that being a very long.
Yeah, I don't see that. I think October 24th is fine, Chairman.
What?
Well, let's make sure the members of the board.
Yeah, we still need 7 members of the board to be present, so guys, take a look at your calendars, and we're looking at October 24th?
October
They
24th.
can always,
regularly
they can
scheduled
always
meeting.
listen to
Right, that doesn't mean we have regular attendance.
I mean, if you want a special meeting, you have to ask the board for that.
Well, that's something the board has to entertain. I think if we...
At this point, I'd like to have, he one minute.
Sure. I think it's...
I would need to check the availability.
Yeah, we have to check availability and then find 7 members who are present. That in the past has been a challenge. The room plus the additional cost and member availability is always going to be a challenge.
Somebody else.
The board and council, along with the professionals, are trying to find an appropriate time to hear the application a second time. There's some talk about a special meeting where the entire meeting would be dedicated to the application. I think what would be best at this point is if we schedule a meeting for the next, our next regularly scheduled meeting, that is available.
October 24th?
October 24th, and then a dialogue amongst the members about availability for both the room, professionals, and board members for a special meeting. If in the event that we can all come to an agreement on a date, we can make that announcement at that regular board meeting on the 24th.
So this application will now be carried to the 24th of October.
If that's acceptable to all parties. Good? Okay.
So, go ahead. I was going to say, you announced that.
So this application will be carried to October 24th, the board's regular meeting at 6:30. My understanding is there are a few bulk variances that will be heard before that. This application will be heard that night. This is the only notice that you will be given. So all interested parties should return on the 24th at 6:30. If the board agrees on a special meeting time, we will make that announcement at that time.
And then they have to notice.
And you will, 200-foot members will all be renoticed. What? You will renotice that? special meeting. So, folks, please, we're still on the record. Because the chairman just said the record is clear, we are not being auditioned for October 24th. Or we can use the language.
All right, hang on. Everybody, just 1 second.
Please.
Everybody just quiet for a second, another 30 seconds. You are not going to have to renotice for October 24th.
If there's a special meeting after that, determined that night, we would ask that it be announced at that night, and there'll be no further notice because it would be after the meeting of the 24th.
But it's a special meeting, you have to notice for a special meeting. I believe you have the applicant.
With all due
has to
respect to
notice.
Ms. Melissa, you're done.
Let's reconvene on the 24th and we'll cross that bridge. Let's see if we can agree on a date between now and the 24th, okay?
Thank you. Can I have a motion to adjourn the meeting, please? A motion and a second, all in favor? All right, see you guys in a couple weeks.